Thank you, Will. All right, thank you everyone for joining. My name is Jacqueline Lucas, and I help to coordinate the case study competition this year. It feels like it's been going on for quite some time. Thank you for everyone for being flexible, and we were able to extend that deadline during COVID, and we're so happy to gather everyone today to finally announce our top winners. So just a quick agenda or program. We'll continue with this welcome. Just talk very briefly about the case study competition, and Caroline will talk to us more about the conservation standards and 4.0. And then we'll go through our awards from honorable mention to our first place award and do a quick closing. Again, my name is Jacqueline, so if you have any questions, feel free to direct them to the group or individually to me in the chat. So just a very brief introduction on the conservation case study competition. This is a competition that's developed by the Conservation Measures Partnership and the Conservation Coaches Network. So it happens typically every 2 years, and the winners are announced at the biannual conservation rally, which will hopefully be happening next year. And this has been a great way to get everyone to submit entries about their conservation case studies and how they were able to incorporate frameworks like the conservation standards in order to kind of either go full cycle or in order to elevate their conservation projects. So we do want to talk about those awardees, but before we jump into that, we'll talk briefly about the conservation standards.
Okay, so hi everyone, this is Caroline, and hopefully we can get this technology to work. I'm Caroline Stem. I work for FOS. I know many of you on the call, thanks for making it, and I coordinate the Conservation Measures Partnership, so that's kind of my role here. And before we go into the case study competition awards, we wanted to just give a little bit of background on the open standards for the practice of conservation, not being sure whether everybody who is on the call is aware of these standards. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but just to mention that we recently released our version 4.0. You can see it right here with our new updated cycle. These are a set of standards and principles that have been developed drawing on the conservation standards community and several other different disciplines, and kind of looking across them and trying to understand best practices and principles. And they have they were started in, I think the first version was in 2004, and they've evolved with the great thinking and work and practice of many of you on the phone right now and the broader conservation standards community. So we really try to kind of keep these dynamic and updated. And as I mentioned, we're at version 4, which was just released this year. Let's see. And also just to mention that the Conservation Measures Partnership, or CMP, is kind of the formal owner and steward of the conservation standards, but I do also want to recognize that they are, each update involves more and more feedback and input from the broader community. So it really is, it goes well beyond CMP, and it's been great to have that input from our broader community. So there are a bunch of updates. I'm not going to go through all of these. There is a link at the end of this presentation if anybody wants to see what other updates there are. So I just want to highlight a few. One is we have a new look and feel. We hired some graphic designers and put a fair amount of effort into really making our product look as good as the technical content is. So now we have great technical content and a nice look and feel, which is pretty exciting. We have greater detail on later steps in the conservation standards cycle. As we have more and more practice with them, we're learning more, and we're evolving them, we're growing them. And so so it's great. We've got, there's more detail to how we track things, how we report on how we're doing in terms of activities as well as results achieved. Um, we've always had, or at least for the last 2 or 3 versions, we've had some detail on climate change, but in the last 3 to 5 years or so, there's been a lot of additional thinking. So we made sure that 4.0 integrates that thinking. And let's see, we've had some terminology changes. I won't go into all of those, but we're really trying to make the terminology kind of simpler English in a lot of ways, but also so that it works across other disciplines and even within conservation, so we can better communicate what we do with the rest of the world. So that's just a little bit of a flavor of some of the updates. What's happening now or in the very near future? Lots of translations. This is pretty exciting. We've had in translations into Portuguese, Mandarin, and French is almost done. And we also have in progress Spanish, Catalan, and Mongolian. So that's pretty exciting. It's also great. We're getting those out in a timely fashion. So it's nice to see that happening. We also have several different videos under production for to kind of promote and explain, share stories about the conservation standards. So, oops, did I accidentally hit? I think I hit the wrong thing here. Let's see. So we have an anthem, kind of a 1-minute overview video. We have a bunch of different conservation standards stories videos and a longer about conservation standards video. And we've got a conservation standards channel on YouTube where you can find this and other content. This link is also hyperlinked. So when you get access to the presentation, you can go and explore a little more. We are working with a storytelling firm to update the CMP, conservation standards, and CCNet websites. And so again, really trying to professionalize the look and feel and make our content more engaging. And that is hopefully coming out in the next, I don't know, 2 to 4 weeks or so, or at least in beta version. And we have a group of CCNet folks, I think CMP and CCNet folks that have some CMP funding to update the coaches training PowerPoints. So again, you can just get a little bit of a flavor of what those are going to look like, more engaging, visual heavy, really kind of focused on the communications. And so just some links for more information. And I'll pass it back to you, Jacqueline. Jacqueline, are you on mute?
Thank
okay.
you. Yes, I have it now. Thank you. And we'll go over those links at the end. And again, we'll make sure this PowerPoint gets to everyone so you can click on everything Caroline shared. So going back to our awards, first off, we had an amazing pool of entries this year, and it was very exciting to read through them and see conservation projects that are going on all over the world. We also had an amazing panel of judges who came together to review each and every one of these case studies and go through them to come up with our top 5. So these are our top 5 here. We had traffic, reducing opportunities for unlawful transport of endangered species, CONAF, Sistema Nacional de Áreas Silvestres Protegidas del Estado de Chile, and then the DAI USAID Habitat Management and Wildlife Protection and Mount Mantalingahan, Philippines, and then Endangered Wildlife Trust and International Crane Foundation their partnership adoption of the conservation standards. And finally, another entry by CONAF about the Chilean palm. Think to learn to know to adapt, and adapt to win. So again, we'll go through these in reverse order, but we did want to make sure we highlight all of the entries and then especially our top 5 candidates right now. So how this will work. I first want to go through our honorable mention. And this was one of our awardees in our top 5 that we just mentioned. And our honorable mention goes to the DAI USAID Philippines Award, the Habitat Management and Wildlife Protection in the Philippines. And the judges felt like this entry did an amazing job highlighting the results and that they had amazing results to show. And it was a great case study to show others what amazing results could be highlighted and the use of the conservation standards. So we just wanted to highlight this honorable mention before we go into our first, second, and third place winners. And we will have some of our judges announce those, each of those case studies. So great job. Thank you, DAI, USAID. Some cheers from everyone here. Thank you for the applause. I see that. All right, on to our third place and go for it, Diana. Go ahead and introduce yourself too.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, this is Diane from WCS. I'm based in Congo, working on a new poultry project led by USAID. And I'd like to announce the third place. It goes to CONAF with the SNASPE, or Strengthening its National System of Protected Areas. And we were really impressed by how CONAF managed to scale up the use of the conservation standards at the national level to ensure that it was applied to all the protected areas of Chile. So congratulations to CONAF. And I think we'll have a video.
Great, yeah, for each of these, we'll let them either speak or play a video. So here we go, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Mariano de la Maza. I'm representing the Chilean Protected Area System in CONAF with the study case Flag Strategies for Adaptive Management in Chilean Protected Areas. Well, in 2015, we adopted and adapted the conservation standards to Chilean Protected Area System. But the main question was, how could we implement these open standards in the system, changing the institutional culture with more than 4,000 workers in a national, regional, and local level at the protected areas. We have 106 protected areas, and we could not make the management plan so fastly that the whole system, the whole workers could work with the new methodology. So we had to do something for the whole system could speak the same language and plan with the open standards and implement the conservation strategies with the same language and methodology, not only the ones who were planning or developing their management plans. This is why we create the flag strategies with the conservation standard language for each protected areas of the system. So every protected areas could plan and implement flag conservation strategies that would be evaluated and adapted annually based on the changes in the threat and status. So this diagram shows how we implement that. Every protected area selected the priority threat. Then they planned and implement conservation strategies. And at the end of each year, the protected areas team would evaluate if the strategies had a positive effect, reducing the threat. So they could continue implementing the strategies or change the strategies or select a new threat to address the next year based on the conservation results. Here I want to show you an example of the Pan de Azúcar National Park in northern Chile. They had the priority threat of free-ranging dogs that was attacking and affecting two native species, the guanaco and the culpeo fox. So they decided select this threat to implement flag strategies, to plan, implement, and evaluate the strategies for reducing this threat. Well, through the use of these flag strategies, in the last year, it has been possible to plan, implement, evaluate, and adapt actions to reduce the presence of free-ranging dogs in the park. For example, an agreement was reached with the municipal kennel that now allows us to remove the free-ranging dogs from the park and take it to the kennel. So also with camera traps, we are monitoring the threat and the native species, and it has shown a reduction of the presence of free-ranging dogs in the park and some recovery also for both native species. So this is a good example of how the flag strategies work in Chilean protected areas. Every national protected area are implementing those flag strategies. So they are planning, implementing, and evaluating the results, the conservation results of some strategies implemented annually. So every area is using the conservation standards language to work in conservation. So after 4 years of implementing flag strategies and having local conservation results, it is already possible to start analyzing the effectiveness of several conservation strategies for tackling different threats in a national level. So we can now learn in a national level which conservation strategies are more effective to tackle different threats, thanks to the local conservation results. This bottom-up system learning allowed us now to generate guidelines from the central level to strengthen the conservation strategies in National Protected Area System. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And Mariano is on the call, so feel free to say hi if you'd like, Mariano, but thank you, that was an amazing video.
Hi everyone, thank you for the hard work in this competition.
Thank you for your hard work.
Hi everyone.
All right, let me exit out of this. Ooh, if it'll let me. Great. So we will jump into third place. We did have a tie. We didn't disclose that.
Yes, we did have a tie, and so the other third place goes to CONAF again for La Palma Chilena. We found that CONAF again did a great job at showing how important this species is for Chile and how they've been all the way through the lessons learning of the conservation standards to ensure that these species, the Chilean wine palm, would be protected. So congratulations again to you, CONAF.
Congratulations. And we have another video, so I'll be playing that, and please let me know if you're having trouble with it.
La palma chilena es una especie nativa y endémica. Es la palmera más austral del mundo y la especie de mayor valor científico de la flora chilena. Su estado actual es crítico. Se estima que en los últimos 500 años el número de individuos de la palma chilena se ha reducido alrededor de un 98%, desde 5 millones de individuos hasta solamente 120.000. La palma chilena se convirtió en objeto de conservación del Parque Nacional La Campana en el año 2017. En este parque es donde se encuentra la mayor población de palmas de Chile, con alrededor de 60.000 ejemplares. De inmediato, una de nuestras primeras preocupaciones de trabajo fue la amenaza identificada como extracción de recursos biológicos, o semillas, la que a su vez viene acompañada de otras amenazas, como la realización de fuego en lugares no habilitados, el ingreso de ganado, la presencia de perros sin dueños y la corta de vegetación nativa. Una de las estrategias ligadas a esta amenaza es la de fortalecimiento de la legislación. Nos encaminamos en la tarea de cambiar su categoría de conservación, que en ese momento era vulnerable. Sin embargo, al comenzar a recorrer este camino, nos dimos cuenta que era un camino largo y que debía recorrerse despacito. Primer intento. El primer fracaso vino con nuestro primer encuentro con el Comité de Reclasificación de Especies, organismo científico que trabaja con el Ministerio de Medio Ambiente, quien señaló que no habían antecedentes suficientes para aceptar el cambio propuesto por nosotros, ya que la amenaza que estaba operando sobre la especie, la corta de individuos, ya estaba regulada y había desaparecido. Este rechazo fue un duro golpe para el equipo, pero fue la instancia perfecta para aplicar manejo adaptativo, reunirnos, determinar en qué fallamos y adaptar el rumbo. Tuvimos un año para prepararnos y así lo hicimos. El análisis de viabilidad realizado mediante 2 atributos ecológicos clave de tamaño y uno de condición nos indicó en la fase de formulación del plan de manejo que el estado de la especie era bueno. Sin embargo, al analizar el atributo ecológico clave de condición, regeneración del palmar, la impresión era que no estaba tan saludable como debería estar. Ese, precisamente, es el dato que debíamos agregar para poder demostrar al mundo científico que la Yubaea chilensis estaba en un estado crítico y que se debían tomar las medidas necesarias para su protección. A fines de 2017 hicimos el esfuerzo de establecer el primer premuestreo para monitorear la regeneración. Esto significó la instalación de 30 parcelas al interior del Parque Nacional, trabajo que fue desarrollado íntegramente por nosotros, guardaparques y técnicos de CONAF.
Una actividad diferente a lo que hacemos siempre. Entonces te conecta también con el entorno. Es importante porque como guardaparques no acostumbramos a hacer este tipo de monitoreo. Y por lo general vemos lo que se ve, que son las palmas grandes. Tú no andas preocupado de estar viendo la regeneración, entonces también te enseña a integrarte más el ecosistema, la sustentabilidad. Sí, es un trabajo que está basado en un método, tiene rigor científico porque cumple con todas las etapas, desde la planificación al monitoreo en terreno. Ahora va a depender de los resultados que se obtengan porque hemos tenido otras experiencias de mensuras forestales que muchas veces no aplican en zonas de estas características. Para la apreciación nuestra es como que hay poca, uno ve poco, siente que es poco, pero a lo mejor es lo normal. También se ve poca, porque debe ser el mismo fenómeno. Hay regeneración, pero la regeneración no se establece, ese es el problema.
Segundo intento. El resultado de este primer monitoreo fue la base de nuestro segundo intento de clasificar a la palma en categoría de peligro. Sin embargo, debíamos contar la historia. Para esto construimos un paper entre quienes participamos del proceso, el que fue publicado en el Boletín de Conservación, Gestión y Manejo de Áreas Silvestres Protegidas en noviembre de 2018. Un aprendizaje importante es poder contar de manera correcta los resultados del trabajo en conservación, monitoreo, desarrollo de una estrategia o cumplimiento de metas. Es vital para darle continuidad a la gestión de la conservación poder contar a la comunidad local, a los vecinos, a la comunidad científica, a los stakeholders, entre otros. Con los nuevos datos obtenidos y publicados, hicimos la reconstrucción de la propuesta. Además, agregamos nuevos datos aportados por otros elementos de monitoreo ya instalados en el Parque Nacional. Lamentablemente, por una decisión de directivos de CONAF, la nueva ficha no fue presentada en el proceso, por lo tanto fallamos en el segundo intento. Con esta nueva derrota en nuestras manos, luego del extenso trabajo que habíamos desarrollado, nos volvimos a reunir. Nuestra principal lección fue que nos despreocupamos de los actores internos y que había que contar la historia en todas direcciones y para todos los actores relevantes identificados en el mapeo de actores, equipo núcleo, soporte y equipo ampliado. Tercer intento. En este punto ya habíamos acumulado bastante experiencia, lo que nos permitía poder adaptarnos y buscar otras vías para lograr nuestro objetivo, que siempre fue el cambio de categoría de la especie. En ese momento, luego de contar la historia hacia adentro, con nuestros propios tomadores de decisiones, asegurando el apoyo institucional, fuimos a conversar con nuestros socios estratégicos en el territorio. Ahí aparece la ONG Centro Ecosocial Latinoamericano, a quien le entregamos la ficha construida con 3 años de información para que se haga parte de la solicitud e ingresamos a proceso. Hoy por fin podemos decir que cambiamos la categoría de la especie, lo que es un gran paso para su conservación, pero el primero de muchos más en nuestra gestión.
Thank you. Congratulations. And I think Paloma's on here if she wants to say hi. Otherwise, we'll just recognize her. Thank you for your submission. All right, let me get the next one queued up. And we have another judge introducing this one. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Okay, this is Daniel Sprod from way down south on the edge of the Great Southern Ocean. And we love the conservation standards down here, spreading it all across Australia. But for this, the second place goes to Traffic Roots with their fantastic use of adaptation. So Traffic are working across the world trying to reduce the unlawful transport of endangered species like pangolins, turtles, birds and ivory. They started in 2015, and a couple of years later revised their theory of change to take advantage of 2 years of experience and realised that they were missing a few things. Fantastic use of theory of change, which is now absolutely central to everything they do, to share understanding across their various partners. As you can imagine, it's a huge job working across all the airports across the world, and they've done a terrific job. I'll pass over to them.
Great, we have Philippa on the line, and I'm happy to click through for you.
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Jacqueline. This is Traffic's case study. We're working on the Roots Partnership, which is funded by USAID. If you could click through to the next slide, please. So our strategy currently is based on 5 objectives, which we're working towards. And these are based on improving the data analytics of wildlife trafficking and air transport, engaging corporate leaders such as industry associations and major airlines and airports, building the capacity of transport staff to detect and report wildlife trafficking, strengthening policies and protocols of wildlife trafficking prevention in air transport operations, and increasing collaboration with enforcement. And this 5th objective is one that was not originally in our strategy, but as Daniel said, 2 years in, we conducted a midterm evaluation of our progress and of our theory of change, and we realised that we had missed quite a major barrier in our original situation analysis, which was a lack of communication between law enforcement and the transport sector, which meant that the transport sector had very little motivation or even ability to report wildlife trafficking to law enforcement. So we then built in this new objective, and we're now making really good progress bringing the two sectors together in our final year or so of roots. Next slide, please. So the main lessons that we've learned in our 5 years so far, the first one is just how important we found it is to use the theory of change in a project. It's really helped us to drill down into our assumptions behind our strategy and identify where they were correct or where they weren't. For example, we realised that we hadn't fully considered the motivations behind the private sector taking action or not taking action to support law enforcement. And having a theory of change helped us identify kind of whereabouts in our strategy we're experiencing challenges and the actions that are needed to overcome those challenges. And then also, particularly for us, working in a multi-sectoral partnership where each partner has their own motivations and priorities and ideas for what that from their perspective is important to implement. Having an agreed theory of change kind of enables much more objective, balanced discussion rather than risking any bias towards particular activities of any particular partner. So we find it key to our partnership. And then the other second main lesson is the benefits of working in a partnership. It has been really challenging at times because each partner is so different. We work in such different sectors and operate in different ways, but we've all benefited hugely from sharing expertise among the partners and their insights. And it's altogether led to a much better informed strategy and more effective delivery of our outputs. We've also found that the stakeholders being represented in the partnership is very beneficial because you can ensure that their needs are accounted for in decision making. And then it's also much more effective. We're able to much more effectively engage and communicate to our target stakeholders when they're hearing our messages through from within their own industry, since two of our partners are industry associations. So we're much more able to influence rather than if it was coming directly from an external organisation. Next slide, please. So we've operated according to the conservation standards cycle throughout our partnership, but over the last 5 years, what's really been highlighted to us as critical is this fourth step, the analyse and adapt. Because in addition to doing our midterm evaluation, where we reviewed the whole theory of change itself, we do always each year assess our progress against our targets and our theory of change to identify any weaknesses or barriers, which then inform our next year's annual work plan. And I think if we hadn't done this each year, we would never have made the progress that we have now. So that fourth step is really critical to us throughout our partnership. And also key to that is the support from our donor, USAID, who have enabled us and encouraged us to take that flexibility in our approach. So that's really been a key factor in us actually being able to do it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. All right, I think we're down to our final first place winner, and we actually have a past winner and one of our great judges this year announcing it.
Is that me, Jaislyn?
That's you.
Thanks, Jaislyn. My name is Max Sepúlveda. I'm from the Pew Charitable Trust. We are based in Chile. We work in the Chilean Patagonia. And we are very happy to announce that the first place goes this year for the partnership adoption. and we are happy. And this was a really, really fantastic job. And big congratulations for these two organizations. It was amazing. And I want to just mention some of the big highlights so that for all the judges were relevant for this moment. All the projects were excellent in different dimensions, but we really get almost in love with this project because have different key aspects. First, this is two organizations talking in the same language and suffering the adoption at an institutional level. So I want to make emphasis that program system adopting this kind of methodology at institutional level is a great component from this project. They were able to use different methodologies in terms of techniques, but also including dimensions such as the human well-being as a goal. And finally, they were only not open to have a mentorship, but also to share their learnings, such as the project that we are learning from them today. So they actually were able to train and share learnings in different opportunities around Africa. So this is a great moment for you, and let's hear from them. Thanks to this excellent team, Endangered Wildlife Trust and International Crane Foundation.
Great. So we have Claire here, and I just gave you control, and she has a short presentation for us.
Great. Thanks so much, Jacqueline. Oh, there we go. It is working now. Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Alton. I'm a Senior Science Officer at the Endangered Wildlife Trust based in South Africa. And I just wanted to recognize my colleague, Erica Cochran, who is the Conservation Measures Manager at the International Crane Foundation. We worked really closely together on this. So basically, our case study describes how the EWT and ICF as strategic partners worked together in collaboration to adopt and institutionalize the conservation standards into our projects, our programs, and our organizations. So this brief presentation will highlight some of those key lessons we learned during that journey. This is our team, or this is part of our team at least. Just to set the scene, the Endangered Wildlife Trust is dedicated to conserving threatened species and ecosystems in Africa to the benefit of all people. And the International Crane Foundation works worldwide to conserve cranes, the ecosystems, watersheds, and flyways on which they depend. So in partnership, we jointly manage this team here, the African Crane Conservation Team. And this represents about a third of both of our organization's conservation efforts. So this partnership has active projects and relationships with other national NGOs across Africa. And during our journey of institutionalizing the conservation standards, an essential lesson that we learned was the need for organizational buy-in and engagement from all of our staff, but most importantly from our senior management. So external mentorship and donor encouragement were really important to convince our leadership to commit to using the conservation standards. Both EWT and ICF have been around for about 50 years. So institutionalizing the standards into our organizations was not an easy feat. In order to change organizational culture and behavior, particularly that has been the norm for over 4 decades, we really needed to set aside time and resources and to ensure that everyone was willing and receptive. Ongoing support was also really critical. Secondly, there we go. Secondly, we learned that although there is undeniable value in following the conservation standard steps consecutively during the design and implementation of new projects, the vast majority of our projects and programs were already in place They had been running for some time, and they already had donor requirements that we needed to fulfill. So in a lot of cases, we had to start at step 4, evaluate what had already been achieved, and think about those things before we could start working through steps 1 and 2. So we learned to adapt the process and the tools to meet each of our project's constraints and priorities. This meant that we had to adhere to existing donor requirements and expectations. We needed to meet budget and time constraints, and support varying degrees of experience in using the conservation standards and in computer literacy when using products like Marathi and Marathi Share. We further learned that monitoring and evaluation is a fundamental step to get right. We used the conservation audit tool to identify and prioritize some of our next steps. And monitoring and evaluation often came out as a really important process, needing improvement across both our organizations. So we developed tools and processes that helped aid teams to identify, categorize, and prioritize our project indicators, while linking them to shared databases and timeframes and responsible parties. So we learned the importance of standardizing and storing our project data really systematically, where it was easily accessible to our team and our managers and our relevant science and fundraising officers. We are also working and learning to scale up our measures of success to be able to report on the organizational, regional, and global level. For example, the Endangered Wildlife Trust has 3 strategic imperatives: saving species, saving habitats, and benefiting people. So we developed a process for effectively monitoring and reporting on the progress of these high-level goals, with the aim of demonstrating measurable conservation impact and social benefit to our partners, stakeholders, our donors, and the general public. And finally, in conclusion, I just wanted to say that the ICF and the EWT have benefited immeasurably from the mentorship and guidance and example solutions offered by global and regional conservation standards communities. And we're so grateful to them for that. So we have decided to commit to maintaining our involvement and helping other organizations to take up the conservation standards, so that hopefully together we can all have a greater conservation global impact. That's it. Thanks so much, everyone. Oh, let me switch on my little video. Hi. Sorry, I should have switched that on earlier.
Thank you, Claire. Great. Yes, a big round of applause, and I see lots of amazing comments in the chat, and we're so happy that we were able to have many of our judges and many of our winners here with us today. Great, thanks for sending that back to me. So we do have some thank yous to give. First off, a huge thank you to Conservation Measures Partnership. They are the ones who provided the funding and the awards in order for us to give these amazing organizations a travel award. And then Evermaven is going to help with some additional storytelling support. And then we have all of our judges on here. You've met a few of them, but we also want to give a shout out to Rob Sutter in the upper hand corner. We have David Wilkie and Kara Stevens, and then Maximiliano. Thank you so much. Daniel and Diane, you guys were a huge help to us. Wonderful at reading through everything and provided just an amazing expertise. We also want to make sure we thank all of the participants, everyone who submitted entries for the case study competition, everyone who voted. We had a huge number of participants. Just to let you know, I think we had over 700 participants in our crowdsourced voting, which was amazing. And everyone who joined us today for the actual awards. Last but not least, we have just a little bit more. And Caroline, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, just I guess maybe if I could say two things. I also wanted to thank you, Jacqueline, for coordinating this whole effort. You did it so gracefully and well and just jumped in with very little support or guidance from me. I've done it in the past or at least done it with other people. So a lot of work there, and thank you for everything you did. And also maybe just to recognize, I wish we could all be in person. I know we all do. We really wanted to do these awards in person at the CCNet rally. So we're sorry we can't really kind of properly congratulate everybody and celebrate, but I think you all know that all of the congratulations and the claps and everything are very heartfelt, and we look forward to one day in the future being able to truly celebrate with you all in person.
Great. I see some great comments. We'll send this out as we've mentioned, and Caroline, I can put it in the chat if you'd like. The link to this presentation, as well as the entries if you want to see any of the entries. And then eventually all of this will end up on the new Conservation Standards website, which is coming soon. I hear it'll be out there by the end of the year, and that'll be great. It will have a new URL that just is conservationstandards.org. So look out for that. But we do have the past 2016 and 2018 case study entries on the CMP Open Standards website right now. So feel free if anyone wants to unmute, but thank you all for attending, and thank you especially to our judges and our awardees for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you,
Yeah,
Caroline.
maybe
Thank you, everybody.
unmute and clap.
Really appreciate
Yay.
it. Well done, everybody.
Great job, everybody.
Hey, well done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
very
all.
much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thanks all.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you, Will.